Hi guys, Mrs. Bennett here. I thought what we would do today is start going back over some of our old material, because obviously we're going to have to start doing some revision now. We are currently halfway through our NEA, which obviously has to be done under a certain amount of time and control conditions, so we're going to have to leave that on the back burner until we can get you back in for now. But what I would like you to do by next week is have a go at this mock for me. Now what I'm going to do is walk you through it, explain to you what you need to do for each question, and then after each question there is a space for you to fill out an answer. There's also a mark scheme after it for you to have a look at how you've done, but I would quite like it if you could try and get these done for me by next week so that I can have a look at them and we can really start the revision process. So the USA, a nation of contrast. Let's have a look at this past paper. Make sure everything is working. Right, so question 1. My first piece of advice with this paper is always make sure that you are looking up here to make sure that you're understanding what key question the question is talking about. Check this for every single question, okay? We know now that we're looking at key question 1, which is immigration. So we know that the information and the content of that key question is what is needed to answer this. So study the source below and answer the question which follows. You will always have a picture source by here. Would it ever be a text? Probably not. Be prepared just in case, but the likelihood is that it's going to be a picture. So use source A and your own knowledge to describe. This question is always going to be use source A and your own knowledge to describe something. In this case, it's use source A and your own knowledge to describe the Red Scare. And you can see there's a photograph here showing a bomb attack by anarchists on New York on the 16th of September 1920, killing 38 people and injuring lots of people as well. So for this, if you look in this little box here that I've given you with the exam guide, this is also in the back of all of your books as well to help you. You need to use the source, you need to extract information from the source and use your own knowledge here. Now I would suggest that you pick 2 or 3 things for the source for 3 marks and 4 pieces of your own knowledge there to get the extra 4 marks as well. You're also expected to analyse the source and its historical content. So in order to get 6 with this, let's go back to you need detailed knowledge of the key feature in the question. You need detailed knowledge of what the Red Scare actually was. Okay, so as you know, the Red Scare was a big fear, a hysterical fear for many citizens in the US about communism. They were fearful because of the Russian Revolution in 1917, and they were convinced that a lot of the immigrants that had come into the country from areas like Russia were communists, were extremists, and they were going to try and sort of override and take down the government. Other bits of knowledge about this as well, you want to think about the strikes. There was lots and lots of strikes during this time, which further convinced people that the Red Scare was actually a thing, was actually a feasible problem. And obviously as well, you've got the events that are connected with anarchists. So Mitchell Palmer, the Attorney General's house being attacked, a church in Milwaukee where there was a bomb that killed 10 people, all these kinds of things to do with anarchists and protests, really. So from the source, obviously you're pulling out pieces of information. It's an anarchist, and you'd pull out what you can see. So you can see that there's lots going on. There's debris, there's obviously a bomb gone off, there's a lot of people there, it's obviously a protest, that kind of thing. So pull that kind of information from it as well. And then bring your own information in about things like the Palmer raids, things like the strikes and the events connected to anarchists that I've just talked about. With regards to analysing the source in its historical context, we're looking at the date and thinking about what is going on or has been going on around this time. What's gone on before it, what hasn't happened yet, that kind of thing, okay? So you were looking at things like, obviously the Palmer raids had happened on May Day 1920, so this is after the Palmer raids, okay? If you'd like to know what the Palmer raids are, there's going to be a BBC Bite-sized link for you in a second. It had also happened after strikes had been happening as well, obviously after the Russian Revolution. Think about why, put it into its historical context using that kind of what's happening before, what's happened after, what's happening around the time. Okay, there's some sentence starters for you there. So I want you then to have a go. Now, when I've said have a go on all of these, and I'm going to upload this PowerPoint as an assignment drop, I want you basically to click on the link, read up on the information and get the content. And then I want you to have a go at the questions. After you've had a go at the questions, there'll be a mark scheme for you, okay? And for you to have a look at, to sort of give yourself a mark and have a think about how you could improve it. Question 2. Describe the change in lifestyles and status of women during the period 1910 to 1929. Easiest question on all of the papers that you will sit. This could be about any key question, and quite often it's going to be about a whole key question. So this one, women, for instance, as you know, is key question 7. It's a whole key question. Okay. 3 important things to this, 3 important elements to it are the causes, the events, and the results. So what caused the event to happen, or what caused women's lifestyles to change? Why did they change? Okay. What actually happened? What were they actually doing during this time? And what was the result of it? Okay. So you're going to think about the fact that women's employment opportunities, their social role, their appearance, their political role wasn't very dominant previous to 1910, well, and afterwards really for a little bit. They're expected to wear tight-waisted ankle-length dresses, have really long hair. They're not allowed to vote. They're not really allowed to work. If they get married, they have to give up their jobs. She would be accompanied by a chaperone if she went out anywhere, so all that kind of thing. And how basically the impact of the First World War changed that completely. So obviously women going into work, they're drafted into the armed forces, they help with the war effort, and they have that sense of freedom. So during the First World War, women have that sense of freedom. They then get the right to vote, which is the 19th Amendment, okay? So they then get the right to vote, and they start to advance in politics, okay? And then the event itself is you get this idea of this flapper lifestyle, also as well, caused by the influence of jazz culture and all that thing. This flapper lifestyle, this feminism where they can go out on their own, they can go out without chaperones, they smoke, they wear dresses that show their knees, all that kind of thing, okay? And the icons and the flapper role models, all that kind of thing as well. And then the results of that, well, lots of new fashions, but also you've got a sort of sense of independence, but then also you've got the opposition. The results of this is the opposition to the flapper lifestyle as well. The Christian community, the anti-flirt leagues, the objection to the different kinds of fashion. That's really the results of this. Okay. So causes, event, results. Again, some information for you there to help you, and have a go. So, question 3. This question is always going to be, what was the purpose of source B? Source B will change. Again, we're checking our key question. This is about prohibition. Little bit naughty there. Prohibition obviously comes under crime and corruption. Okay. Probably should have been a little bit more explicit there, but crime and corruption is what we're looking at here. Study the source below and answer the question which follows. So, you're using details from the source and your own knowledge, and we need to really think about the historical context in this one. I like to think with this one, it's data without the T. Okay, so date, author, audience. So this is a cartoon published by an American newspaper by the Anti-Saloon League during the First World War. Now, what we need here is, why was it produced? Why was it produced at the time, the author and the audience? Okay. And you're going to make a judgment right from the start. We don't really want you sitting on the fence. You need to tell me, what is its main purpose? What do you think is the main purpose of this? Make a judgment right from the start. Then you're going to back it up with some content. Okay, you're going to give me some of your own information. You're going to pull some content from the source. Then consider why it was produced at that time. And like I've told you before, your own knowledge will come into that as well, because you will know what was going on around the time of the First World War. Things as well, like during the First World War, towards the end of the First World War, the president banned beer production until the war ended, and there wasn't really an opposition to this either. You've got the Anti-Saloon League saw prohibiting the sale of alcohol as patriotic. Basically, they said that many of the brewers, many of the people that made the beers during this time were actually from Germany. And so the Anti-Saloon League said, oh, if you're drinking that beer, you're supporting Germany. And so they made it a patriotic thing to sort of oppose alcohol. Again, the sale of alcohol, they're calling it the Kaiser's Brew. If you're buying it, you're calling it the Kaiser's Brew. And in 1999 then finally, 1919 then finally, they banned alcohol completely, and it came into practice then in 1920. Okay. Again, we're looking at why it was produced at that time. What were the Anti-Saloon League trying to do at the time? What was their intention? The Anti-Saloon League quite obviously going to be against alcohol. Obviously as well, we're thinking about the audience. It's the wider American public, isn't it? They're appealing to the wider American public. If you drink alcohol, you are helping Germany. You're helping fascists. Okay, you're helping create poverty. And then at the end of it, then you're going to have to basically come to a conclusion. Therefore, as mentioned, the purpose of the source is clearly to, and you give me a solid answer as to what the main purpose of the source is. Okay, again, some information for you there on BBC Bite Size for you to have a go, and a mark scheme for you when you're done. Question 4. This one looks at popular entertainment this year. And it's looking specifically at the cinema. Now, this is always going to be which of the sources is more useful to an historian studying something. It could be studying women during this time. It could be studying segregation during this time. Anything like that. And you'll have 2 text sources, and you have to decide, you do have to make a judgment about which one you think is the most useful. Okay, so with this one, you're looking at part of the Hays Code, a set of guidelines basically that films had to abide by surrounding things like swearing, nudity, all that kind of thing. And then the other one is from Douglas Fairbanks, who's an American actor, writer and director, making a speech at the Oscars in May, the first Oscars in May 1929. So with this one, you need to consider the content of both of the sources. What are they looking at and what are they saying? And then we're going to say both sources are useful, however, such and such, you make a decision about which one is more useful straight away. Source C is useful because you're going to think about the content and the reliability and all that kind of thing. And then you're going to say, however, it may not be as reliable and useful because of this. Look at date, author, tone, and audience. Why does that make it reliable? Why does that limit its reliability and utility as well? Then you're going to repeat that again for the other source. So again, content, data on the source, date, author, tone, and audience. How does that make it reliable? Remember what I've always said to you, it's that analysis that's really important. And then basically you're going to bring in your own historical knowledge when you're looking at that date, author, tone, and audience, and then make a judgment at the end as well. Okay. You need historical context in this to access the higher bands. You need to make sure it's sort of stuffed with your own knowledge as well. So you're not just saying it's reliable, it's not, it's because from the time, that kind of thing. Anything you can pick up, that'll get you half marks. You need to make sure that you're filling it with your own knowledge. Where are you going to get that from? I've left you a bite-sized link by there. And I want you to have a go. Mark scheme again, give yourself a mark. Question 5 is looking at the end of prosperity in this instance, but obviously this is the essay question. It's with 16 marks and then 3 marks for spelling, punctuation and grammar, so 19 marks overall. It's really important to bear in mind that the whole paper is worth 53 marks, so this is a huge part of the paper. So if you get this right, you're pretty much on track to doing okay. Now, this question will either be a rank order or it will be a on the one hand, on the other hand. This one in particular is rank order. An example of one that could be on the one hand or the other hand is the life of women changed significantly during this period in time. On the one hand it did, on the one hand it didn't, and you do it that way. This one, however, is about impact and about rank ordering the issues and the impacts that we're talking about. So, was panic selling the shares the most significant cause of the Wall Street crash in October 1929? Remember, with this one, you're looking at long-term causes and short-term causes. So you're thinking about credit and sales falling and overproduction and all that kind of thing, falling in demand, over speculation then comes under short term. Availability of easy credit. So you're looking at long term and short term, and you're basically going to rank order them. You always address the key issue in the question first. Okay. So the way I would go about it with this one is I'd talk about panic selling and why that was important. And then if you don't think it's the most important, or you think it's somewhere in the middle, or you think it's the least important, I would say that in your opening paragraph. So if you think it's the most important, you'd say why it was the most important. And I would then probably go from most important to least important. If you don't think it's that important, if it's somewhere in the middle, you're going to say, I don't think it's the most important, as there are more important factors, such as, and then perhaps you can go from least to most important. Or you might think it's the least important, which would be ideal, really, because then you could have a nice sort of structured essay. You'd go, I think it's the least important because, and then you'd say, this factor is more important because, and this what happened. So, for instance, you could say, over speculation was more important than panic selling because blah, 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 and you'd give me reasons why. However, easy credit was even more important than this again, blah, 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 and this is why. And you would then work your way up to the most important factor. Excuse me. So, when you get to that, then you answer the question, you give a clear conclusion to tell me, answer the question, was panic selling shares? Say yes or no. Always refer back to the key question, the key issue in the question at the end. Okay, again, have a go. BBC Bite Size there for you to get you some information. I would like it if you could try and have a go at all of those questions. Over the week now, I'm going to be popping some revision PowerPoints up as well, so you can use them. But BBC Bite Size really is the best resource you could use at the moment. You've also got your books at home, or you should have your books at home that you can use as well to help you. Have a go, and by next Tuesday, please, if that would be possible, if you could drop the PowerPoint with your name on it into the assignment drop, that would be brilliant. So thank you very much.